Now, what does that do to the turf when we let it really get stressed in the summertime? Another class, another time, for you people taking turf physiology, you'll find that that's the nature of the beast. The only problem is when the plant does go dormant, it allows for other things to come in and try to take over at that time. So if you have, in this town, we got a little problem called Bermuda grass that'll try to sneak in there. So all of a sudden you have a hot weather grass invading a cool season grass. And if you have the conditions where it can overwinter adequately, then you start getting some of those grasses encroaching in the cool season grass. And in this part of the country, Bermuda grass is a plague. You know, we just hate Bermuda grass if we're trying to grow turf around Walla Walla. Other parts of the country, that is the grass of choice for turf. But again, it depends on where you're living and what you're used to and what's acceptable and what isn't. So we consider it the worst possible weed you could get in your turf. And by having your cool season grasses go dormant, they can invade very rapidly because they love that hot weather and they just take off and thrive in it. Then when it gets cool, they die out. They go dormant and the other grass comes back. Now in parts of the nation, that's the norm. They will literally plant ryegrass in the Bermuda grass and have ryegrass in the winter, Bermuda grass in the summer. Overseeded every year to counter that so they don't have brown or yellow lawns. Because then in the wintertime, in the southern climes, in the wintertime, the ryegrass goes yellow. It goes dormant. They overseed with, the Bermuda goes dormant, they overseed with rye, and it grows and hides the dead or the dormant Bermuda during the wintertime. Then when it gets real hot in the summer, the ryegrass dies out and the Bermuda kicks in and it's nice and green, so they have basically green lawn year-round. So you go down in the southern desert climates of the Southwest, and that is the norm. And it works out fine. And it's great business because you get to plant a lot of rye seed and sell a lot of ryegrass seed. So it's great for Oregon. You know, all that Oregon seed, they like that. Any questions about any of the crops we've talked about and their water demand through a season, their water usage through a season, and things that you've maybe seen a plant do that you thought was pretty bizarre? You know, we've talked about what's pretty normal, but what about things that have, what happens when we don't get water on these plants correctly? You know, that's what vegetable gardens, like to, just for an instance, if you are growing cucumbers out in your vegetable garden, and one week you forget to water the garden and it's hot out, what's going to happen to your cucumbers? Well, yeah, you know, the plant's going to stay alive. 1 week isn't going to kill a cucumber plant, but what happens? You lose all the blossoms, the little fruit drops off, so what it does is it just tries to keep its vine alive and you lose the fruit. It'll just drop fruit. And that will be very typical. You do the same thing to virtually any vegetable you grow in your garden. If you put it into serious stress, whatever blooms are there are going to drop, all the small fruit's going to drop, and it'll just try to feed the biggest, best fruit that it has on its vine or on its bush. And everything else will drop off because it's saying, hey, the only way I'm going to be able to propagate myself is to give the most vigorous fruit all my energy so that it can get the maximum amount of nutrients to it, so that when I die, it's going to fall to the ground and reseed me. So the plant has gone into basically reproductive survival. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. And that's how they think. Not any really different than animals think. You know, they'll take the strongest, and if it comes down to starvation time, They'll make sure the strongest ones get the food so that they can survive, and they let the runts die. And you can look at different groups of animals, and whether it's a pack of wolves or a bunch of caribou, you know, or deer or whatever, the strong are going to survive and they're going to get the benefits. And that's the way plants are too. They're trying to make sure the species propagates itself and continues. And so they're going to do whatever it takes to do that, and so they just go into these processes to do it.